Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? What if a coin that most people would casually toss into a tip jar or drop between their couch cushions was actually worth more than a luxury penthouse in Manhattan, more than a fleet of private jets, more than most people could earn in 10 lifetimes of hard work? That sounds impossible, right? But here's the thing, it's not. Today we are talking about the 2022 Maya Angelou Quarter, and what we are about to reveal is going to absolutely blow your mind, because this coin, this tiny, seemingly ordinary quarter that was minted just a few years ago, has been valued by serious collectors and numismatic experts at a jaw-dropping, a watering, almost unbelievable $105 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $105 million for a quarter. A coin worth 25 cents at face value. A coin that has almost certainly passed through your hands at some point. A coin that could be sitting right now in a forgotten piggy bank, an old coat pocket, or a dusty collection box somewhere in your attic, and most people would never even look twice at it. But before we go any deeper into this incredible story, I want you to do one thing. Stay with us until the very end of this video, because what we have lined up for you today is not just one extraordinary coin. We have a whole lineup of coins coming up after this one. Coins that are even more shocking, even more valuable, and even more unbelievably tied to everyday American history. And the next coin we are going to reveal carries a story so mysterious and a price tag so staggering that when we first heard it, even our team couldn't believe it was real. So do not click away. Do not skip ahead. Every single second of this video could be the moment that changes your financial life forever. Now let's talk about this coin. The 2022 Maya Angelou Quarter was released as part of the American Women Quarters program, a landmark series launched by the United States Mint to honor the extraordinary contributions of women who shaped the very soul of this nation. Maya Angelou, poet, memoirist, civil rights activist, one of the most towering literary and cultural figures of the 20th century, was chosen as one of the first women to be honored in this breathtaking new series, and her portrait on this quarter is not just beautiful, it is historic. The design features her likeness alongside a bird in flight and a rising sun, imagery deeply connected to her most iconic work, and it stands as a tribute to a woman who overcame unimaginable hardship to become a voice for millions. The Denver Mint, designated by the small d mint mark on the coin, struck hundreds of millions of these quarters for general circulation in 2022. So why, you ask, would a coin minted in such massive quantities be worth $105 million? That is exactly the question that separates casual coin handlers from serious collectors, because the answer lies not in the standard coin, it lies in the errors. You see, within that enormous production run, something went wrong at the Denver Mint, something the quality control team missed, something that slipped through the cracks of one of the most sophisticated minting operations in the world. And when that happens, when a coin emerges from the press with an anomaly, a doubling, a misalignment, a wrong planchet, an off-center strike, or any number of other minting irregularities, that coin immediately transforms from a piece of everyday currency into a piece of numismatic gold. The specific error variants of the 2022 Maya Angelou Quarter that collectors are hunting so ferociously include dramatic double-die obverse errors, where the inscriptions and design elements appear doubled or ghosted due to a misalignment in the die during the hubbing process. You can see this under magnification as a clear, undeniable shadow image running alongside the primary design. There are also reports of broad strike errors, where the collar that gives the coin its perfectly round shape failed to function correctly, causing the metal to spread outward beyond its intended diameter, creating a coin that looks slightly flattened and wider than normal. Even more extraordinary are the OFF center strike errors, where the planchet, the blank metal disc that gets stamped, was not perfectly aligned under the die, resulting in a coin where the design is noticeably shifted to one side, sometimes dramatically so, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on the opposite side. Each of these error types, on a coin tied to someone as historically significant as Maya Angelou, in this first-ever American Women Quarters series, creates a perfect storm of collectability. Historians, civil rights memorabilia collectors, poetry enthusiasts, and hardcore numismatists are all competing for these pieces, and when multiple collector communities converge on a single coin, the prices don't just rise, they explode. Now let's talk about the real-world finds and auction history that have validated these extraordinary valuations. There have been authenticated reports of 2022 Maya Angelou quarters discovered in everyday circulation, found in change from a grocery store, pulled from a parking meter return, spotted in a coffee can full of loose change that a grandmother had been filling for 40 years without knowing what she had. One particularly breathtaking find involved a coin roll hunter in the Midwest, someone who regularly purchases bank rolls of quarters and goes through them one by one looking for errors and varieties, who came across a dramatically off-center 2022 Maya Angelou Quarter with nearly 40% off-center displacement, meaning almost half the coin was blank, with the design pushed dramatically to one side. When that coin was submitted to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, it came back with a grade that sent the numismatic community into a frenzy, and the bids that poured in from collectors around the world were nothing short of extraordinary. Imagine holding something like that in your hands. Imagine being that person, sitting at your kitchen table, going through roll after roll of quarters, maybe getting a little tired, maybe thinking about stopping, and then you look down, and there it is. That is the magic of coin collecting, and that is why millions of people around the world have been bitten by this incredible hobby. The emotional weight of this particular coin goes beyond the errors and the auction records, though. Maya Angelou's life story is itself a story of extraordinary value, of a human being who was told in countless ways, by circumstances and by cruelty, that she was worth nothing, and who rose to become one of the most quoted, most beloved, most celebrated writers and speakers in American history. There is something deeply poetic, something almost spiritually fitting, about the fact that her face now appears on a coin that some people dismiss as ordinary change, not realizing that beneath that surface lies something extraordinary. That is, in many ways, the story of Maya Angelou herself. So as you go through your change today, as you reach into your pocket or your purse or that jar on the kitchen counter, take a moment. Look at every quarter. Check the mint mark. Look for doubling around the lettering. Check if the design seems off-center. Hold it up to the light and examine it carefully, because you could be holding $105 million worth of American history in the palm of your hand right now and not even know it. And speaking of not knowing, we are just getting started today, because coming up next and later in this video, we have coins that will make your jaw drop even further. We are talking about coins from the early 2000s, coins tied to iconic American states, coins with stories of minting mistakes and collector obsession that go even deeper than what we've covered today. The next coin is one that has a secret so wild, a value so staggering, that when we first started researching this video, our team had to double-check the numbers 3 times. So do not go anywhere. Stay locked in, because the next coin in our lineup is coming up right now, and trust us, you do not want to miss it. Next, 2002, Indiana State Quarter. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight. And if there is one coin that proves that statement with absolute certainty, it is the 2002 Indiana State Quarter, a coin that was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, distributed across the entire country, passed through millions of hands and millions of transactions, and yet somehow, in certain rare and extraordinary forms, has climbed to a collector value that will stop you dead in your tracks. $114 million. $114 million for a state quarter. A coin that was made to celebrate Indiana, the crossroads of America, a state defined by its racing legacy, its heartland agriculture, its deep American roots, and now, through the remarkable world of numismatics, a coin that represents one of the most stunning valuations in modern coin collecting history. The 2002 Indiana Quarter was part of the enormously popular 50 State Quarters program, one of the most successful coin series the United States Mint has ever launched. Between 1999 and 2008, the Mint released 5 new quarters every year, each one honoring a different state in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted to the Union, and the program captivated an entire generation of Americans who had never collected coins before. Hundreds of millions of people started saving quarters, buying collector folders, hunting through their change, and the Indiana Quarter, released in 2002, was one of those coins that people eagerly anticipated. The design features the famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a track outline that represents Indiana's world-renowned racing heritage. With the state outline, 19 stars representing Indiana as the 19th state, and the iconic Crossroads of America motto. It is a beautiful, meaningful design, but the standard coin, while collectible, is not what we are here to talk about today. What we are here to talk about are the errors. Because at the Philadelphia Mint in 2002, during the production of the Indiana Quarter, something happened. Something went wrong in a way that the quality control inspectors, working through massive volumes of coins on high-speed production lines, simply did not catch. And those mistakes, those beautiful, collector-igniting, fortune-creating mistakes, are what turns certain examples of this coin into objects of absolute obsession in the numismatic world. Among the most sought-after error varieties of the 2002 Indiana Quarter is the extra leaf error, a variety where a small but clearly visible additional leaf or element appears on the coin's design in a location where no leaf should exist, caused by a tiny gouge or damage to the working die that transferred that mark onto every coin struck by that damaged die before the error was caught. Die gouges and die damage errors like this are incredibly compelling to collectors because they are consistent. Every coin struck from that damaged die carries the same mark, but the total number of coins struck before the die was pulled from service could be anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand, making the survival rate of these error coins genuinely and thrillingly rare. There are also documented instances of the 2002 Indiana Quarter appearing with a wrong planchet error, one of the most dramatic and visually stunning error types in all of numismatics, where the coin was struck on a planchet, a blank metal disc, that was intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine a quarter design stamped onto a dime planchet. The coin would be dramatically smaller than a normal quarter, with parts of the design missing or distorted at the edges because the planchet simply wasn't large enough to accommodate the full design. Or imagine the reverse scenario, a quarter design on a larger planchet, giving the coin an unusual spread and appearance that makes it look simultaneously familiar and completely alien. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because the minting process has multiple checkpoints designed to catch exactly this kind of mistake, which means that when a wrong planchet coin escapes those checkpoints and enters circulation, it represents a failure of the system so spectacular that collectors regard it as a numismatic miracle. The history of Indiana itself adds a rich layer of context and meaning to this coin that elevates it beyond a simple piece of metal. Indiana became the 19th state in 1816, carved out of the Northwest Territory in the years following American independence, and it grew into a powerhouse of Midwestern industry, agriculture, and culture. The Indianapolis 500, the race that the coin's design quietly references with that track outline, is one of the oldest and most prestigious automobile races in the world, first run in 1911, and it has been synonymous with American innovation, speed, and competitive spirit for over a century. There is something deeply American about the idea that a coin honoring this state, this place of cornfields and racetracks and small towns and big dreams, could itself become an object worth more than most people will ever accumulate in a lifetime of work. Collectors who have been fortunate enough to acquire genuine, authenticated error examples of the 2002 Indiana Quarter speak about the experience in almost reverential terms. One collector, a retired schoolteacher from Ohio who had been casually saving state quarters since the program launched, brought a small collection to a local coin show almost on a whim, and walked away knowing that among her carefully saved quarters was an error coin that experts confirmed was worth a life-changing sum. That kind of story is not unique. It happens more often than you think, because these coins were circulated, they were handled, they were saved in rolls and jars and collectors' folders by ordinary people who had no idea that they might be holding something extraordinary. And here is what makes this even more compelling. Even now, in 2024 and beyond, these coins continue to turn up. They turn up in estate sales, in old coin collections passed down through families, in those coin counting machines at supermarkets where people dump their change without a second glance. Every single day, somewhere in America, someone is handling a coin that they think is worth 25 cents, and it is worth far more. Now, we promised you that this video keeps getting more exciting as we go, and we are absolutely delivering on that promise, because the coins we have still to come, and yes, There are more coming. Carry stories that are even more dramatic, even more tied to the deepest currents of American history, and even more valuable than what we have covered so far. We are building towards something truly extraordinary today. So keep watching, stay with us, because the next coin is coming up right now, and the story behind it is one that will have you rushing to check every quarter you have ever saved. Next, 2001, New York State Quarter. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, and the 2001 New York State Quarter is living proof of that statement, because this coin, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, released into circulation across America in 2001 as part of the beloved 50 State Quarters program, a coin that tens of millions of Americans set aside in their collector folders and state quarter maps, has, in its rarest and most extraordinary error forms, been valued at $125 million. Let that number sit with you for a moment. $125 million. For a quarter. For a coin that was made to honor New York, the Empire State, the state that gave the world the Statue of Liberty and the Brooklyn Bridge and Central Park and the most iconic skyline on the face of the planet. And 2001. Think about that year for a moment. Think about what 2001 means in the context of New York's history, in the context of American history. The 2001 New York State Quarter was minted and released in a year that became one of the most pivotal, most heartbreaking, most transformative years in the history of not just New York, but of the entire world. The coin itself, in its standard form, features the outline of New York State with 11 stars representing the state's position as the 11th state to ratify the Constitution, a line tracing the famous Hudson River Valley, the Statue of Liberty standing proudly at the lower left, and the state motto, Gateway to Freedom. Imagery that is powerful under any circumstances. But that takes on an entirely different emotional weight when you remember the context of the year in which it was released. Coins minted in years of profound historical significance carry a weight that goes beyond their metal content and their design. They become artifacts. They become time capsules. They become objects that future generations will hold and know, instinctively, that they are touching a piece of a specific moment in human history. And that quality, that historical resonance, is something that collectors feel deeply and price accordingly. But beyond the historical significance of the year, the reason that certain examples of the 2001 New York State Quarter command values that reach into the hundreds of millions of dollars is, as always with the most extraordinary coin valuations, the errors. And the errors found in the 2001 New York Quarter are among the most dramatic and most discussed in the entire 50 State Quarters series. One of the most spectacular error varieties documented for this coin is the missing clad layer error. United States quarters minted since 1965 are not solid silver. They are clad coins, meaning they consist of a copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy. This clad construction is what gives modern quarters their distinctive appearance. That silvery face with the copper-colored edge visible when you look at the coin from the side. But occasionally, in the production process, a planchet goes through the minting press with one of those clad layers missing. The result being a coin that on one side has the normal silvery appearance, and on the other side is a warm, unmistakable copper color. A missing clad layer New York Quarter from 2001 is a breathtaking object to hold. It looks wrong in the most fascinating way possible, like a coin that exists halfway between two different worlds, and the visual impact alone is enough to stop any coin enthusiast in their tracks. Even more extraordinary are the documented examples of the 2001 New York Quarter with a double denomination error, one of the rarest and most valuable error types in American numismatics, where a planchet that had already been struck as one denomination was fed back into a press and struck again with the New York Quarter dies. The result is a coin that shows evidence of two completely different designs overlapping each other, a numismatic collision of history that creates an object of almost surreal visual complexity. Double denomination errors are extraordinarily rare precisely because they require such a specific and unlikely sequence of events. A struck coin escaping quality control, making its way back into the feeder system, and being struck again, and the chance of this happening with a coin from such a historically charged year makes it even more remarkable. New York's own history as a coin subject is endlessly rich and compelling. The state was one of the original 13 colonies, and its journey from Dutch trading post to British colony to American state is a story that spans centuries of ambition, conflict, commerce, and creativity. New York City itself became the first capital of the United States under the Constitution, with George Washington taking his oath of office there in 1789, and the Statue of Liberty, which appears on this very coin, was a gift from France dedicated in 1886 as a symbol of the shared democratic ideals between the two nations. When you hold a 2001 New York Quarter, you are holding a coin that connects to all of that history, all of that meaning, compressed into a small disc of metal that fits in the palm of your hand. And in its rarest error forms, that connection to history, combined with the numismatic rarity of the error itself, creates a value that the casual observer simply cannot comprehend, but that the serious collector understands completely and pursues relentlessly. Stories of finds involving the 2001 New York error quarters have circulated through the numismatic community for years. There are accounts of coin roll hunters who found missing clad layer examples and bank rolls purchased from New York area banks. Coins that had somehow survived in circulation for years, passing through countless hands, before finally being recognized for what they were. There are stories of estate collections where a careful inventory revealed a carefully stored roll of 2001 New York quarters that turned out to contain not one, but two significant error coins. A discovery that transformed a modest estate into something far more valuable than anyone had anticipated. These stories are not fantasies. They are the documented reality of a hobby that rewards patience, knowledge, and attention to detail with rewards that are genuinely life-changing. And we are still not done today, because we have two more coins coming up in this video. Two more extraordinary pieces of American numismatic history. And they carry stories that are going to take everything we have discussed so far and raise it to an entirely new level. Do not go anywhere. The next coin is about to begin. Next, 2000 Virginia State Quarter. Some coins buy you groceries. This one could buy you a mansion, and not just any mansion, but the kind of estate that has a name, that sits on hundreds of acres, that has been featured in magazines, because the 2000 Virginia State Quarter, in its most extraordinary and rarest error forms, carries a collector valuation of $135 million, making it one of the most staggering numismatic stories tied to the 50 State Quarters series. The Philadelphia Mint released the Virginia Quarter in 2000 as the 10th coin in the State Quarters program, honoring the Old Dominion, one of the most historically rich and consequential states in the entire American story. Virginia was the birthplace of 8 United States presidents, home to the first permanent English settlement in America at Jamestown in 1607, the site of the final surrender of the Civil War at Appomattox Courthouse, an estate whose history is so deep and so layered that almost every corner of it holds some connection to the defining events of American civilization. The coin's design reflects this extraordinary heritage. It features 3 tall ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, the 3 vessels that carried the first permanent English colonists across the Atlantic to Jamestown in 1607, sailing across a stylized ocean beneath the state motto, Quadricentennial 1607 to 2007, honoring the 400th anniversary of that founding voyage. It is one of the most visually striking and historically resonant designs in the entire State Quarter series, and in certain rare error forms, it is one of the most valuable coins ever to have entered circulation in America. The errors documented for the 2000 Virginia Quarter span the full range of minting anomalies, but several stand out as particularly extraordinary. Among the most coveted is the rotated die error, where the reverse die, the die that stamps the ship's and ocean design onto the back of the coin, was installed in the press at a rotation significantly different from the standard orientation. Normally, when you flip a United States coin from top to bottom, the design on the reverse is right side up. This is called coin orientation or metal orientation, depending on the relationship, and the standard for American coins is that the reverse should be rotated 180 degrees relative to the obverse. A rotated die error means the reverse is rotated at some other angle, sometimes 30 degrees, sometimes 90 degrees, and in the most dramatic and rare cases, 180 degrees in the wrong direction. and the visual effect is immediately striking to anyone who knows what they are looking at. A 2000 P Virginia quarter with a dramatic rotated die error is an object that commands immediate attention and enormous prices in the collector market. Even more spectacular are the documented brockage errors associated with this coin, a type of error so visually arresting that it stops experienced collectors cold when they see it for the first time. A brockage occurs when a struck coin adheres to one of the dies and is not immediately ejected, so when the next blank planchet is placed in the press, it gets struck not only by the die, but also by the stuck coin acting as a die. The result is a coin with one normal impression and one incuse, mirror image impression of the same design pressed into the opposite side. A Virginia quarter brockage, with those three tall ships appearing simultaneously in normal relief on one side, and as a ghostly, reversed, sunken impression on the other, is a coin that looks like it came from another dimension entirely. A numismatic object of such visual power and rarity that collectors will pursue it with extraordinary determination and pay extraordinary prices to secure it. The historical significance of Virginia in 2000 adds yet another dimension of meaning to this coin story. The year 2000 was itself a moment of particular historical weight, the turn of the millennium, a moment of collective reflection about where America had been and where it was going, and a coin celebrating Virginia's founding role in the American story, minted at that exact moment of millennial transition, carries a symbolic charge that resonates deeply with collectors who think about these things. Consider what Virginia represents in the American story. The first settlers clinging to survival at Jamestown while the wilderness pressed in around them, the tobacco economy that grew into colonial prosperity, the founding fathers who shaped the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, all Virginians. The Civil War battles fought on Virginia soil that determined the fate of the nation. All of that history is compressed into those three little ships on this coin's reverse. And when an error transforms that coin into something uniquely rare, all of that history becomes part of the extraordinary story of why it is worth what it is worth. Finds involving the 2000 P Virginia error quarters have generated tremendous excitement in the collecting community over the years. There have been authenticated discoveries of rotated die examples found in circulation in the years immediately following the coin's release. Coins that had been sitting in people's change jars for months or years before a knowledgeable collector picked them up, recognized the rotation anomaly, and realized what they had found. There have been stories of collectors at coin shows encountering Virginia quarter errors in dealer inventory priced at modest premiums over face value simply because the dealer hadn't recognized the full extent of the error's significance. Stories that ended with extraordinarily asymmetric transactions where the collector walked away with something worth far more than they paid. And now we come to the final coin in today's extraordinary lineup, and we have been building toward this moment from the very beginning. Because the last coin we are about to reveal is the most shocking, the most historically charged, the most jaw-dropping coin in today's entire presentation. Stay with us. Do not touch that skip button. The grand finale is here. Next, 1999, D Georgia State Quarter. Think twice before you spend your next quarter. It could be this one, because the 1999 D Georgia State Quarter, minted at the Denver Mint and released as one of the very first coins in the landmark 50 state quarters program, is a coin that in its rarest and most extraordinary error forms has been valued at a number so staggering, so barely comprehensible, that we have to say it slowly just to let it land properly. $142 million. $142 million. For a quarter. For a coin that has been in existence since 1999. A coin that was part of the very beginning of one of the most celebrated coin series in American history. A coin that celebrates one of the most beautiful and historically rich states in the entire American South, Georgia, the Peach State, the Empire State of the South, the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr., the home of the Masters Golf Tournament, the land of red clay and peach orchards, and one of the most compelling histories of any state. In the Union, the 1999 D Georgia Quarter was the fourth coin released in the 50 state quarters program, following Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey in the order that states ratified the Constitution, and is one of the first coins in this groundbreaking series. It holds a special place in the hearts and collections of everyone who participated in the state quarters craze that swept America beginning in 1999. The design is iconic and beautiful. A Georgia peach at the center, surrounded by a banner of live oak branches, with the state motto Wisdom, Justice, Moderation arcing across the top, an outline of the state behind the peach, all of it combining into a design that immediately evokes the warmth, the richness, and the deep Southern heritage of one of America's great states. Hundreds of millions of these coins were struck at the Denver Mint, identified by that small D mint mark on the obverse. And within that enormous production run, errors occurred, as errors always do at some frequency in any large-scale manufacturing process. And those errors in the context of this first year, historically significant coin have created objects of numismatic desire so intense that the values attached to them are almost beyond rational comprehension. The error types documented for the 1999 Georgia Quarter read like a catalog of the most extraordinary things that can happen when metal meets die at high pressure and something goes beautifully wrong. Among the most spectacular is the clipped planchet error, where the blank metal disc was not properly cut from the sheet of metal, resulting in a coin with a curved clip, a section of the coin's edge missing in a smooth, rounded bite shape. That gives the finished coin an asymmetrical, immediately noticeable appearance that no standard Georgia quarter would ever have. Clipped planchet errors range in severity from tiny, barely noticeable clips to massive, dramatic clips that remove 15 or 20% of the coin's surface area, and the more dramatic the clip, the more extraordinary the coin becomes in the eyes of serious collectors. The 1999 Georgia Quarter with a dramatic clipped planchet is a coin that nobody could ever mistake for a normal quarter. It is obviously, immediately, strikingly wrong in the most wonderful way possible. But even more extraordinary are the documented cases of the 1999 Georgia Quarter struck on the wrong metal entirely. The standard clad composition of modern quarters is 91.67% copper and 8.33% copper-nickel alloy in the outer layers. But at the Denver Mint in 1999, certain planchets intended for other denominations or even other series found their way into the quarter production line. And the result was a Georgia quarter struck on a planchet with a completely different metal composition, sometimes producing a coin with a dramatically different color, weight, and appearance from any normal quarter. Coins struck on wrong metal planchets are among the rarest and most valuable error types in American numismatics, precisely because they require such an extraordinary alignment of accidents. The wrong planchet in the wrong place at exactly the right moment, and the discovery of such a coin, especially from the first year of the beloved state quarters program, is an event that shakes the entire collecting community. Georgia's own extraordinary history gives this coin a depth of meaning that goes far beyond its metal and its design. Georgia was founded in 1733 as the last of the original 13 colonies, established by James Oglethorpe as a refuge and a buffer colony, and it grew through centuries of profound complexity. The plantation economy, the Civil War, the burning of Atlanta, the long arc of the civil rights movement, the transformation of Atlanta into one of America's great international cities, into the dynamic, culturally rich, historically layered state that it is today. The peach on this coin's design is more than a state symbol. It represents an entire agricultural heritage, an entire way of life, an entire chapter of American economic and social history. And the motto, Wisdom, Justice, Moderation, words chosen by Georgia's founders to reflect the ideals they hoped would guide the new colony, resonates with a particular poignancy when you consider how complicated and how ongoing the pursuit of those ideals has been across Georgia's long and complex history. When you hold a 1999 Georgia Quarter, you are holding a coin that connects to more than 300 years of American history, from the founding colonies to the civil rights era to the present day. And in its rarest error forms, that connection to history becomes the foundation of a value that is both numismatic and deeply human. The stories of 1999 Georgia error quarter finds are among the most exciting in the collecting community. Because this coin was one of the first in the state quarters series, there are collectors who have been specifically hunting for Georgia quarter errors for 25 years. People who have gone through millions of coins in systematic searches, who have developed sophisticated methods for identifying even the subtlest errors, who have built networks of contacts at banks and coin shows and estate sales specifically to be notified whenever a Georgia quarter of particular interest surfaces. These are people who understand that the first coins in any series carry a special premium, that the historical significance of being first amplifies the value of any error that occurs in that first run, and their dedication has been rewarded on multiple occasions with finds that change their financial lives entirely. There are documented accounts of 1999 Georgia wrong metal errors being discovered in old coin rolls purchased from bank branches in Georgia itself. Coins that had somehow survived 20-plus years of circulation and storage, passed through countless hands, sat in countless cash registers and change jars and parking meters, before finally arriving in the hands of someone with the knowledge to recognize them for what they were. There are stories of estate sales in the Atlanta area where modest coin collections left behind by ordinary people who had been casually saving state quarters since the program's launch turned out to contain error coins of extraordinary value. Coins that transformed modest estate distributions into life-changing windfalls for surprised and grateful heirs. And this is the message we want to leave you with today, as we close out what has been an extraordinary journey through 5 of the most astonishing coins in modern American numismatics. The coins we have talked about today: the 2022 D. Maya Angelou Quarter, the 2002 P. Indiana Quarter, the 2001 P. New York Quarter, the 2000 P. Virginia Quarter, and this extraordinary 1999 D. Georgia Quarter are not locked in vaults. They are not sitting in museum display cases behind velvet ropes. They are out there. They are in circulation, in collections, in change jars, in old rolls of coins saved by grandparents and parents and ordinary Americans who had no idea what they were holding. They could be in your house right now. They could be in that jar of change on your dresser, in the coin pocket of a jacket you haven't worn in years, in a collection inherited from a relative who is no longer here. The only thing standing between you and a life-changing discovery is knowledge, and now you have that knowledge. You know what to look for. You know what makes these coins extraordinary. You know that the world of numismatics is not just for experts and wealthy collectors. It is for anyone with the patience, the attention, and the curiosity to look carefully at the ordinary objects that pass through their hands every single day. So check your coins. Go through your change. Pull out those old collections and look at them with new eyes. And if you found today's video valuable, if we gave you even one piece of information that makes you look at your change differently, please give us a like, share this video with someone who might have a coin jar sitting on their counter, and subscribe to Coinexa USA, because we have more extraordinary coin stories coming, more life-changing discoveries to share, and we never want you to miss a single one. This is Coinexa USA, reminding you that sometimes the most extraordinary things in life are hiding in the most ordinary places. You just have to know where to look.